Nigel Bradham and the Eagles defense will face a Jacksonville Jaguars offense that's been struggling a bit. It's an offense that really does have a defined identity that they have not really been able to execute this year the way that they want to. And the reason for that has been the absence for most of the season of Leonard Fournette. Now, earlier in the show, I talked about the Jaguars defense. This is a team, keep in mind how they're built, with a strong defense that controls games. But offensively, they wanted to be built with the run game first, and Blake Bortles a complementary piece. And Fournette, he's critical to all this. Last year, he was the driving force behind what they did offensively, capable of powering and then stretching long runs for touchdowns. Now, because of his situation, and who knows when he'll be back, that's the issue the Jaguars face right now, they went out and traded for Carlos Hyde. Now, Carlos Hyde is not quite Fournette, but he can run physically inside and has the ability to be a chain mover and a sustainer, which they've been lacking in the run game. Because if they can't do that, that puts too much pressure on Blake Bortles, because Bortles at his core is a complement. He's just a piece of the offense. If Bortles has to be asked to do too much throwing the football, then that becomes problematic for their offense. They're off schedule and they can't sustain. So for the Eagles defense, what's absolutely critical in this game is they must defend the run. They must put the Jaguars offense into long yardage situations where the Eagles defensive line can go to work against the Jaguars O-line that struggles in one-on-one pass protection, particularly on the edges with their tackles. So stopping the run game is critical. Putting the ball in the hands of Blake Bortles in long yardage situations, that will be an absolute key for the Eagles defense in this game.
All right, Ike, the Jags offense looking themselves in the mirror, but the Birds defense, yeah, they're looking in the mirror as well. They gave up over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Did you see any change in the type of coverage they had against the Panthers?
I really didn't. The game plan was working through 3 quarters. There's no sense of changing things up once you get in the fourth quarter. And I thought Jim Schwartz called pretty much the same game, a lot of man coverage. The debate out there is whether or not the guys are playing off coverage or are they playing up on the line of scrimmage, trying to prevent these receivers from getting free releases. Let's take a look at this play right here, right? This is late in that drive before Carolina scores the game-winning touchdown. This is set up by that play. They're in single high coverage. You got man-to-man defense here. Everybody's locked in. And what you're going to get is Christian McCaffrey on a quick release coming out of here. That's Jordan Hicks's man, right? So when you got bump and run coverage like you do with these guys up here, this is going to allow for the offense to basically pick you here. And so if Jordan can do anything differently, instead of taking that false step up to put himself in position there, what you have to do is, the way we would play it, you communicate with each other, these two guys. It's almost impossible for Jordan to get outside to remain proper leverage on Christian McCaffrey. You could possibly pass this off to where he takes him and Jordan is locked right there on the wide receiver. That's not really how the defense was designed here. Jordan gets outflanked and it allows Christian McCaffrey to make this 22-yard reception, setting up the game-winning touchdown for the Carolina Panthers.
The only bigger fourth quarter collapse in Eagles history, Mike Quick was on the field for that, not you. Did you have a game like that, and how do you recover from that?
Well, I tell you, I do remember one earlier in my career against the Arizona Cardinals. Seemed like we always had problems with this team. We would jump out on them early. I can remember being up either 21-3 or 22-3, and we wind up blowing that game late in the fourth quarter, wind up losing it 24-22. You know, it's one of those things where you can only allow it to fester for 24 hours, right? You know, you understand it hurts. It's a disappointing loss, but it does you no good. You can't change anything. The best thing you can do is move forward and make sure it doesn't happen again. And you learn from these things like this.
Were you expected to be angry going over to London?
Sure, being angry has got to be controlled anger, right? You know, because this game is part emotion, but the majority of it is football intelligence. Understanding the down and distance, the circumstances that you're in throughout the course of the game. The Eagles get back to playing smart football, they'll win the majority of the games. It isn't a question about whether or not they have enough talent, you just have to execute.